tell me how you got started in music. What inspired you to do music in the first place?
I was always a big fan of like glam rock, like T-Rex and Alice Cooper and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I always figured there must be a way that, normal people, I mean, those people were probably born normal people too. They weren't like born in glittery costumes and, ready to rock and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a long time to figure it out, but when punk rock came around in the mid-'70s, I all of a sudden had the idea that everybody can do it as long as you just do it. And, if you're pretty good, if you're pretty convincing with what you're doing, then you definitely stand a chance. And that really motivated me. So I had a band from when I was 11 years old, but, I never thought anything would come from it.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, over the years, as they say, the steady drip puts a hole into the stone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it works.
Glam rock and then punk rock were kind of the roots. How did you find yourself working in industrial music or electronic music?
Well, there were a couple of key events kind of in my life. One was when I started listening to the band SPK from Australia.
Yes.
And then later on DAF, DAF, German, Deutsch-Amerikanische Freundschaft.
Yep.
Very electronic and sequencer-driven.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like opening my eyes into the direction, like, that's what I want to do. I want to do hard electronic music, but with, guitar elements, because I was always a fan of guitar riffing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the early 80s or so, I started messing around with samplers and, equipment that used to be really, really expensive. All of a sudden became a bit more affordable with the onset of the digital age.
Mm-hmm.
And, then one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was doing sound, like noisy stuff, and soon after that, I started learning how to record stuff and how to make records, really.
Right. Now, you're known to work in production and stuff like that. Is that part of the business that you enjoy, is working in the studio, or is it the live aspect that keeps you going?
It really is the balance between the two, because, of course, they are two very extremely different kind of fields of work.
Mm-hmm.
One is in total seclusion, as much time as you can possibly stay awake is put into working and coming up with crazy shit. And I heard, by the way, that you can say shit and fuck again on American radio. So, hey, shit and fuck. Anyways, and the other is, constantly on the ball, constantly on the move, basically being alert of your surroundings 24/7, big responsibilities. And it's the fine line between those two things, living both extremes at any given time is really making it fun for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be happy just sitting in the studio for the rest of my life.
Right. Through the years, you've seen technology progress leaps and bounds. When you started out, you were probably using big clunky samplers that you could maybe get a megabyte worth of information.
Not even 512 KB.
Right.
Half a meg, yeah.
So, as you've seen technology progress, do you prefer to still work with the hard synths, with more of the old school stuff? Or have you really dived into technology, and are you really after, you're dealing with soft synths and stuff like that for your programming and sampling and stuff?
Well, I did a stint in the whole kind of soft synths and mega kind of multi-page layered manual type of synths, but eventually I came back to the more clunky and less preset-oriented stuff. So at this point, my studio is pretty much, I want to say, about 85% totally analog,
mm-hmm.
With no preset, anything kind of stuff. And, a couple of machines, like, for instance, the Access Virus, I fell in love with when it first came out, and I'm still in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it became a mainstay in my studio, but a lot of stuff that I purchased in the late 90s just didn't last very long. It, both for reasons that I was constantly moving across the country and didn't want to have a bulk of just crap floating around in my life.
Right.
And then I kind of got a little more steady, and then I branched out and rebought my old analog gear. So if you're a gearhead, my studio is a couple of MS-20s, SH101, SH201, TB303, Future Retro 777, Future Retro Revolution, that kind of stuff, all good old control voltage and gate.
You are a pillar of the community that we work in, the genre. What does it feel like to have so many people kind of look up to you and look up to what you produce?
Well, I never noticed the looking up part so much. I mean, the ones that look down on you are the ones that are loudest, and so I tend to just be myself and not let myself influence by, questions like, does he or she or do they really like this or what, because to me the driving factor is I like it, and that's why I'm doing it, and I'm glad that you say that. I mean, that makes me feel all tingly and warm and fuzzy. But I'm not living my life in a sort of awareness of, that I'm some sort of guy that's better than any other guy.
Yeah. I would call you an icon, really.
Well, that's very sweet of you.
Yeah.
I'm tickled.
You've crossed boundaries. I mean, you've crossed over into the mainstream, and now you're back to doing what you do. It's something that all of us that do this look up to.
Well, it really came from a sort of very ironic and tongue-in-cheek point of view. I mean, in the mid-'80s, there was in my world, there was very little new stuff happening music-wise. It was kind of like the Sister of Mercy thing had kind of worn itself a little thin, and the best records were out at the time. And then I was really influenced by some stuff that Adrian Sherwood did. Adrian Sherwood being the guy from On You Sound, a sort of very dub-influenced label that also worked with people like Ben Sherman and Lee Scratch Perry from Jamaica. And, they had this weird mix of, really hard beats and, reggae-type gospel choirs in the background, you know? And there was always this toying with pop a little bit. And, that's where we took our leanings from. And just went, okay, well, let's ask the secretary in the studio if she can maybe sing, and she could.
That's awesome. What do you think has been your proudest moment, or perhaps your proudest record that you've done?
It's always the latest one. I mean, because you remember all the sweat, blood, and tears going into. And to be frank, I mean, once I'm done with the record, once I give it away to be mastered, and then I hear the mastered version, and it goes into production, I'm so sick of it I can't even listen to it anymore. But of course, it's the one that's closest to me. It's like the youngest child,
Right.
I mean, I only have one child, so I don't know how it would be to have more. And then you probably always care the most of the youngest one, because you know that it needs the most tender nurturing and whatnot.
Yeah. I'll get back to you on that. My wife and I are expecting our second in December, so.
Awesome. How old is the first one?
3.5.
Cool. Mine is 2.5 now.
Oh, really?
Fun age, isn't
it? Yeah. Wait. The other night, my son and I were. I read him bedtime stories every night before he goes to bed, and
oh yeah, so do I.
We were laying in there, and we were reading a counting book, and he wanted to practice his counting, and he said, "Fucking 1, fucking 2, fucking 3," and I said, "Oh no."
Well, it's funny because my daughter was listening to some various renditions of The Wheels on the Bus.
Yeah.
And one of them was Madonna.
Yeah.
On a sort of, on YouTube, you just punch in Madonna Wheels on the Bus, and you get some sort of comic figure of Madonna. And I said, don't play that one. That's really crap. Okay. Then she got off the chair. She walked into the living room, held up the Blitz record, and, the latest KMFDM album.
Yeah.
And said, Papa, this is a crap record. I was laughing, so then she said, I want to hear it. I want to listen to it. I put it on, and she said, that's a crap record.
Oh, kid's wonderful. Okay, so let's get back to some serious stuff here.